Welcome back to New York Sports Wicker Media. I am Watsuke99. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm going to turn my attention to the New York Mets and where they are right now. And I want to focus in particular on one recent player who the Mets have been linked to over the last couple of weeks, but especially more in recent days. That player is Willson Contreras, the catcher for the Chicago Cubs. Those of you who know me know that I have a very close connection with the sometimes great city of Chicago, depending on what context you're talking about. But I did live in the area for 20 years, so I do know their fans pretty well. I know their teams pretty decently, and I've seen a couple of trade proposals recently coming from a certain Cubs fan website, blog, I guess. So obviously, thankfully, these are not coming from beat reporters or anything like that. But when I did see these trades, I had to come on here and respond to what I was looking at. Now, Willson Contreras is a very good catcher. I think he could very well be the starting catcher in the National League at the upcoming All-Star game. So he's hitting on the year 269, 12 home runs, only 27 RBIs, which tells you just how terrible the Cubs offense is. When you have 12 home runs and only 27 RBIs, what does it tell you? That the top of your lineup doesn't get on base. Maybe the Cubbies, as they are affectionately referred to, could take a page out of the Mets playbook and learn how to play offense and actually try to get on base as opposed to swinging for the fences half the time. And his on-base plus slugging percentage is .887. That is amongst the top of catchers in all of baseball right now. So I go onto this website, and if the Mets do have one weakness position-wise in their lineup, it may very well be catcher. I mean, Thomas Nido and Patrick Mazeika are backups. Nido does have a tendency to get a clutch hit once in a while, but you don't want him playing 5 out of 6 games or whatever. James McCann, very good defensive catcher, not the best offense that we've ever seen. He'll hit the ball hard once in a while, but he doesn't make enough contact. So the Mets could certainly stand to upgrade at the catcher position for the remainder of the current season. And Contreras would be a great fit. He's excellent against left-handed pitching, a spot that the Mets have been vulnerable to at certain points during the season. Also plays very good defense. So looking at these trade proposals, this particular individual, who has a little bit of Cubs bias, has 3 proposals in mind. The first was a straight-up trade for Francisco Alvarez. Francisco Alvarez is the Mets' #1 prospect in their entire minor league system. He happens to be a catcher, and he is mashing the ball. He's tied for the Eastern League in the lead for the Eastern League in home runs. It seems like he's drawing comparisons to Pete Alonso with his power. When he comes up to bat, fans are almost expecting him to hit the ball out of the park. And so this particular offer would involve the Mets trading their #1 prospect at the same position that Contreras plays for basically a 3-month rental. So that is the ultimate win-at-all-cost idea, and to me it makes absolutely no sense. So then he offers another proposal, Brett Baty and Mark Vientos. Baty is the Mets' 2nd-ranked prospect. Vientos is the Mets' 5th-ranked prospect. Now, Mark Vientos, I have no issue trading him directly. He has a lot of power, but he's incredibly prone to striking out. I watched him for a couple of games this past week when the Syracuse Mets were visiting Norfolk, and while I like his swing, he just does not make enough contact. Can hit the ball hard. Can definitely do that. But if there was a prospect you wouldn't mind trading, I would not mind doing it for him. But I prefer to do it for somebody who the Mets will have for more than, say, 3 months. Brett Baty, absolutely not. He would be on my untouchable list. His ability to make contact, his defense, I would not get rid of him under any circumstances. I would classify him as untradeable as Francisco Alvarez. Proposal number 3 was Ronnie Mauricio and Alex Ramirez. That's the Mets' 3rd and 4th-ranked prospects. So you got to give this Cubs fan credit for shooting for the moon. But at the end of the day, all he can get is a little bit of stardust, because I would not... Mauricio, you can make the argument, he's a shortstop, third baseman, The Mets are set at shortstop with Francisco Lindor for the next decade. Alex Ramirez, very good outfield prospect, rising up the rankings. Mets don't have a whole lot of outfield prospects. That's another guy I would not want to give up. It's interesting. So, of the 5 guys, the 2 guys that I'd be willing to keep, or that I'd be willing to, are 1, 2, and 4. Alvarez, Beatty, and Ramirez. But if they had to give one of these guys up, I would go with Mauricio or Vientos, but I would want something back. So I guess maybe this Cubs fan still thinks that Zach Scott or Jared Porter are still in the front office. Because last year the Mets acquired Javi Baez, who wound up being a rental, for Pete Crow Armstrong, who was one of their, he was a top 10 ranked prospect in the Mets system. They let him go to Chicago, and he's now having a pretty good season in the minor leagues, mind you. So maybe the Cubs think they can hoodwink the Mets again. Well, with Steve Cohen firmly in charge, with Billy Epler running the general manager's office, and Buck Showalter as the manager. I know that he's the major league manager, but the bottom line is this is a different front office than what the Cubs were dealing with 11 months ago when the Mets made the Baez deal at the trade deadline. So I'm not interested really in trading for Willson Contreras straight up. If they want to make a Contreras trade, I would be willing to do something a little bit different. The Cubs stink on offense. They need some offense. So maybe they would take Dom Smith on. Dom needs some playing time. He hasn't had a great season, but he's shown that he is a capable hitter, and he's a very good defensive player. So why not do something like taking on Willson Contreras and Wade Miley, who could give the Mets a little more pitching depth, which they could use because they have some injured starters right now, between Tyler McGill, between Carlos Carrasco. God only knows when Jacob deGrom's coming back. He should be coming back, but you can't count on him. Whatever you get from him is a bonus, in my opinion. So what about taking on those 2, and let's give them Dominic Smith, and I would give them maybe a Jose Butto, who's I think the number 11 ranked prospect that the Mets have. Very good pitching prospect as well. So maybe the Cubs would be willing to take that on to get a little bit of help for their major league roster. I mean, Dom's under control for a couple of years. Why wouldn't that make sense? But no. So Cubs fans, I know you well, but you're going to have to come at us with a little bit more, with a little bit better proposal than trying to strafe our minor league depth, especially the top of our system, which is looking pretty darn good at this point down in Binghamton. So that's my thoughts. Let's see what the Mets wind up doing. They certainly need more pitching depth, but I'm not as worried about the lineup as I have been. It's just not my biggest concern right now. If anything, I still want to upgrade this bullpen. I want another reliable arm out of the bullpen, even more so than I might even want a catcher. So that's my thoughts. Mets are off today. They resume action tomorrow against the Miami Marlins as I'm recording this. Got to face Sandy Alcantara again, which I am not looking forward to. But June's been a rough month. The Mets are basically 500 in the month of June. So time to turn the heat up again, especially with the Atlanta Braves breathing down our necks. But at the same time, you know what? I'm not going to freak out if they lose the division because, again, 6 teams make the playoffs. As long as you make the playoffs, you're starting all over. And if the Mets have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer as the 1-2 in a 3-game series, I would want to go against that team. I don't care who you're throwing at them. So that's my thoughts for right now. I'll see you back with more thoughts from the Wicker Chair.